I grew up in this, well, small is not the right word, but nothing town called New Milford, Connecticut. It's about 15 minutes north of Danbury. I mean, there's just nothing there, right? It's a bedroom town, but we moved there in 96, nope, 97. Beautiful house, right? Great education system. But that's where, that's just where I grew up, spent a ton of time. Family is still there, and they are tangentially involved in, funny enough, they're tangentially involved in local politics. My mom's the head of the Chamber of Commerce there, so she gets all involved with everything just by accident.
Yeah, so you started off in politics just naturally then.
I wouldn't say naturally. My first like core memory, if you will, of politics is the Bush Gore election, the year 2000. It was coming off the Y2K scare, and I didn't follow the run up to the election, but am distinctly I have this distinct memory of like election night, Florida not being called, and just Brian Williams coming out and talking people through it, and then kind of the mess that the Supreme Court case was, the expedited Supreme Court case was, and the hanging chads, just the mess that was. That's kind of like my first core memory of politics.
Hmm.
And then it wasn't for another 5 or 10 years that I got re-engaged. My grandfather ran unsuccessfully twice for state representative in Bristol, Connecticut. As his grandkid, I'd go over in the summertime, and I remember just going around in 100-degree weather, door knocking with him, and we have these paper walk books, and dragging me. I'm like 10 or 11 at this point, around talking to different people. And I mean, look, it was great time with my grandfather, but I do not miss door knocking at all.
Yeah, I've done some door knocking and it can get tiring. It can get long and tiring.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that is a good segue into my first question. When did you become interested in politics?
Yeah, I mean, I've always kind of had the bug. I've always kind of had the political
Hmm.
bug. I mean, other than volunteering, maybe with the local RTC or getting involved in college, my first job was actually field director for a PAC, and I was placed. See, I was first place in Pennsylvania 6, which was Ryan Costello's district at the time. It's 2018. And then after he decided not to seek re-election, I got relocated up to the second district in Maine. That was Bruce Poliquin's district at the time. I've met both of them. They're both fantastic gentlemen, and I really wish we had their leadership in the House right now.
Yeah, we're lacking good leadership right now. That might change. We'll see. But
I hope so. I hope
yeah.
so.
What would you say is your favorite part about working at Trailmapper?
So I get to experiment a lot here at Trailmapper. Having co-founded the company, I've moved in a position where I'm head of strategy. So I get to work with a ton of great candidates, political action committees, nonprofits, on fine-tuning their approach, fine-tuning their strategy, timing, and getting them in front of the right donor with the right message at the right time. It's super rewarding to have a client come to us and be like, "Hey, I don't know what you guys did differently, but we just crushed our fundraising quarter, and they just want to say thank you about it." The reality is we don't do anything differently quarter to quarter here, but we set a really good foundation at the beginning. We build their muscle. I say it's like going to the gym. We build up their call muscle, we build up their fundraising muscles so that when it's time to, bring everything home, they're able to carry that load. They're able to do it.
Hmm. If you could give one piece of advice to somebody who plans on running for office, what would it be?
First and foremost, start local. I hear and talk to a lot of people that are looking to run for office that, they're trying to hit a grand slam or a home run at their first at bat ever.
Hmm.
And it's really tough to do. It's not impossible, but it's almost unheard of. A lot, especially on the Republican side, the center right side of this, you have a lot of very successful people, business owners, community leaders, right, coming out of the woodwork where they've been very successful at one very particular thing in their life, right? And it's made them very wealthy, it made them hugely successful, and maybe a titan of industry, but that doesn't necessarily translate. So I would say start local, right? Not Congress, but run for state rep,
Hmm.
right? Get your feet wet on your school board. where you can make those mistakes at a very, and it won't cost you as much, right? The opportunity cost is lower, but your failure cost is lower as well. I would also say talk to everyone, your friends, your family, coworkers, your personal network about thinking about running for office. They're going to have a lot of very constructive feedback. They're going to try to connect you because they like you, maybe they love you, right? They're going to try to connect you with people in the community and they'll have ideas of their own. And the last thing I would say is don't be shy or embarrassed about it. Again, when we talk to candidates early on in the cycle, they're like, we got to keep this really, really quiet, really, really hush hush. Why? Why? You're one of many people who are running.
Yeah,
Unless you
it's
have some
almost
very
counterintuitive, right?
it really is. Unless you have some very serious skeletons in your closet, I wouldn't be super hush hush with your personal network about, hey, I'm thinking about running for office. Because again, going back to running for Congress, your first hurdle, your first big splash should be a week in saying, I raised $100,000 from individuals. Well, that doesn't happen overnight. You have to put in, maybe 6 months of work to organize, get all your ducks in a row from getting friends and family donors, personal network donors, people from, that you work with, all those sorts of things. It doesn't just turn on a dime.
Well, I guess last question then. What's your favorite quote?
So my favorite quote is take your place in history, inspire, soar, excel. I don't know who I can attribute that to. But when I was growing up in high school and the first couple of years of college, I did something called Drum Corps International, and basically it was 100 days where you would get musicians and dancers together into specific corps. You would tour the country, and this quote was hanging on a banner, and it's the last thing you see, and the entire tour culminates in Indianapolis, Indiana, at Lucas Oil Stadium. And this quote is the last thing you see before you march out onto the 50-yard line of Lucas Oil, where like 20,000 people are ready to watch you, right? And hundreds of thousands of people have watched you the entire summer perform this show that you bled, sweat, cried tears over.
Mhm.
It's a very inspiring quote to me. It's what gets me out of bed in the morning, and yeah, it just personally means a ton.
I like that. Well, Ryan, thank you for answering these questions.
Well, thanks, Michael. I really appreciate being able to chat for a couple of minutes here.